A mystery that's haunted investigators and the public for the last 25 years is that of the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. JonBenet Ramsey was a 6-year-old girl with a radiant smile and a charming personality. Born on August 6, 1990 in Atlanta, Georgia, to John and Patricia Patsy Ramsey, she lived in an influential area of the town. Her father John was a successful businessman, while her mother Patsy, a former Miss West Virginia, introduced her daughter to the world of beauty pageants. By age 6, JonBenet had already won several titles, including Little Miss Colorado and National Tiny Miss Beauty. JonBenet lived in an expensive 7,000-square-foot house with her parents and her 9-year-old brother Burke. However, on December 26, 1996, the Ramsey family's perfect life was shattered. As Patsy was getting her morning coffee at 5:30 a.m., she found a 2.5-page handwritten ransom note on the back stairs down to the kitchen, stating that her daughter had been kidnapped. The kidnapper demanded $118,000 as a ransom, and the note also warned them against calling the police. Patsy, however, still ended up calling the police. By 6 a.m., Officer Rick French arrived and searched the house to look for clues that could lead to any clues about the disappearance of JonBenet. The first investigation revealed nothing. As the day progressed, Detective Linda Arndt instructed John to thoroughly search the house. She did this to help John distract from the current situation. But things took a devastating turn when John, while looking for his daughter, stumbled across her lifeless body in the basement of their own home. John described the scene as, "She was lying on a white blanket. The blanket was wrapped around her. Her hands were tied above her head. She had tape over her mouth. I immediately knelt down over her, felt her cheek, took the tape immediately off her mouth. I tried to untie the cord that was around her arms, and I couldn't get the knot untied." And with that, a series of investigations began. As the investigation progressed, suspicion began to circle around JonBenet's own family. Intense media coverage painted the Ramseys as potential suspects and exposed them to public scrutiny. Despite some circumstantial clues, no concrete evidence was found to connect the Ramseys to the crime. As the investigations progressed, the mystery only got more confusing. Each new lead brought fresh speculation but little clarity, leaving the tragedy of JonBenet's death unanswered. The crime scene was found to be heavily contaminated. The friends and family of the Ramseys had shown up in the morning after finding out about the disappearance of their daughter. To make matters worse, the discovery of JonBenet's body by her father, John Ramsey, led to the loss of what could have been the most crucial piece of DNA evidence. In his decision to carry her upstairs, he potentially disturbed vital forensic evidence. Over the years, several books, documentaries, and media specials have come out that look at the case. The latest one is a 3-part Netflix documentary series. Where so many projects before had theorized on the guilt of the Ramsey family, this 3-part series examines the evidence to exonerate them. It exposes evidence and insight from the now retired detective Lou Smith, whose work took him in the opposite direction as the alternative suspects. While the series has done a good job going into the case details and getting interviews from most parties involved, netizens can't help but point out that the series seems almost biased. Some key evidence was barely touched upon in the documentary, and the audience was quick to notice that. So what did Netflix miss? Let's have a look. DNA evidence and family clearance. A critical part of the investigation in this case came from DNA evidence recovered from the crime scene. Early in the investigation, forensic analysis identified trace amounts of DNA belonging to an unknown male. The DNA was found on JonBenet's clothes and was categorized as foreign as it did not match any of the family members. This gave the police 2 major pieces of information. The nature of the crime was far more sinister than what they had imagined. The presence of foreign DNA on JonBenet's clothes pointed towards a sexual motive. And the second major piece of information that came from this DNA was the involvement of an external perpetrator. This evidence led to the eventual exoneration of the Ramsey family, who were put under a microscope during the investigation of this case. While the recent Netflix docuseries Cold Case: Who Killed JonBenet Ramsey does address the broader mishandling of the case by law enforcement, it seems to downplay the role of this critical DNA evidence. In failing to emphasize how that finding cleared the Ramsey family, the series risks continuing misunderstandings about their involvement. The identification of this DNA evidence can answer the questions that have haunted this family and the public for a quarter of a century now. Though the crime scene and consequently the DNA was highly contaminated, modern forensic advancements can separate and enhance mixed DNA profiles, which may prove beneficial in this case. The pineapple incident and family dynamics. Another significant aspect of the JonBenet Ramsey case that was notably absent from the Netflix docuseries, whether by design or oversight, was the discovery of undigested pineapple in her stomach during the autopsy. The presence of pineapple strongly suggests that JonBenet had eaten it shortly before her death. This is a factor that brings up a lot of questions about what she was doing in the hours preceding her murder. Patsy and John Ramsey denied any knowledge of JonBenet eating pineapple that night. This discrepancy creates a critical gap in the timeline of the events and also puts the parents in a bad light, making the credibility of their story doubtful. The crime scene investigation led the police to the Ramseys' kitchen table, where a bowl containing pieces of pineapple was placed alongside a glass containing a tea bag. The fingerprints found on the bowl matched those of Burke's and Patsy's. This has led to the theory that one of the family members may have prepared the snack for JonBenet, making the intruder theory seem weaker. If the intruder had committed the crime, why would they fix JonBenet a snack? And why would they leave such a telltale sign? Based on the evidence, the most logical explanation is that JonBenet ate the pineapple at home, potentially after the family had returned from the White's house, but the exact timing remains unclear. This important piece of evidence was glossed over in this series, making the viewers question the credibility of the series. Many netizens are upset that there was no solid explanation provided for this key piece of evidence. It is also important to note that while the presence of pineapple casts doubt on the family's story, it is also possible that they in fact were not aware of JonBenet getting up at night and fixing a snack for herself. On the other hand, another explanation for the pineapple being found in JonBenet's stomach could be that she ate it earlier in the day, possibly at a different time, and that it remained undigested for hours. While the forensics team strongly believes that it is highly likely the pineapple was consumed only a little while before her death, there is no solid proof that that was the case. Forensic evidence and misinterpretations. Forensic evidence is the major piece that can help solve the puzzle if it fits perfectly. Unfortunately, in the Netflix documentary series, little to no focus went into describing the crime scene and the forensic analysis. One of the most shocking and crucial pieces of evidence in the case was the garrote used to strangle JonBenet. The garrote, made from a broken paintbrush handle taken from Patsy Ramsey's art supplies and an unknown cord, had cut deeply into her throat. Interestingly, the fibers found on the duct tape, the garrote, and the wrist ligatures were found to match Patsy's sweater, while fibers matching John Ramsey's clothing were found on JonBenet's underwear. These fibers were a direct link to the family, raising serious doubts about the involvement of an outside intruder. This, along with the heavy blow to the head that left an 8-inch fracture in her skull, was indicative of a calculated and violent attack. Moreover, the two evenly spaced circular marks on JonBenet's back, which many speculated could have been caused by a stun gun, added to the body of evidence pointing to intentional violence. While one theory was that such marks might have been due to a toy train set, the intensity of violence committed against her made it hard to believe such a story. Most shocking, however, was the revelation in a 2003 court filing that remnants of the same paintbrush handle used in the garrote were also discovered in JonBenet's body, conclusively establishing the fact that sexual assault took place. The forensic details of the crime scene also suggested a certain degree of staging. Firstly, the wrist ligatures were loose and non-functional as restraints, which indicated an attempt to make it appear as if JonBenet had been kidnapped. Secondly, the duct tape over JonBenet's mouth was placed with a perfect lip impression, indicating that this was applied either after her death or after she was unconscious. While the evidence presented in the forensic reports is central to the case and establishing the events of the night, the way that they've been presented in the documentary doesn't paint the full picture. These details should have been emphasized as they are important in understanding what happened that night, but instead they were frequently downplayed or misunderstood, leaving viewers with an incomplete and often misleading view of the case. Patsy's potential involvement and cover-up theories. Patsy Ramsey's role in her daughter JonBenet's death has been widely speculated over the years, with a variety of theories emerging from her possibly having committed or covered up the crime. While the documentary touched on many aspects of the investigation, it did not successfully consider the many theories and pieces of evidence pointing toward Patsy's possible involvement. Patsy Ramsey was a former beauty queen and pageant mother, highly invested in her daughter's life, especially when it came to child beauty pageants. She was not at all subtle about wanting her daughter to win such competitions. JonBenet's beauty and public persona was central to Patsy's own identity. When preparing for the funeral of JonBenet, Patsy asked whether her daughter's arms were bruised or not so she could opt for the right sleeve length for the dress. While this doesn't point towards anything sinister, this raises the question, could Patsy have become overly invested in JonBenet's appearance, creating an environment where abuse was concealed? The possibility that Patsy tried to conceal evidence of previous abuse or involvement in JonBenet's death was not acknowledged by the series, even though the theory had been a central part of the investigation for many years. Initially in the investigation, a group of experts claimed there were multiple signs of possible prior sexual abuse, including inflammatory changes to the tissues. However, not a single pathologist could testify to this finding. Additionally, it has been accounted that JonBenet experienced enuresis, as can happen among sexual assault victims. Because of all these theories, it is speculated that Patsy, being a protective mother, wanted to cover up these signs of abuse, either because she did not want them to be discovered or because she was afraid of the repercussions on her family's reputation. A lot of netizens also speculate that there's a possibility that Patsy was covering up for someone. Maybe it was for John or Burke. The biggest evidence that supports this theory is the ransom note itself. The note was inordinately long and elaborate, demanding $118,000, a figure that exactly matched John Ramsey's recent Christmas bonus. The specificity of that amount led many to suspect that it was someone who had knowledge of the family matters. Another critical piece of evidence was that the note was written on a piece of paper from the Ramsey house. The writing was strange, and the tone was so formal that even the language made the authorities doubt its authenticity. The FBI's child abduction serial killer unit who were involved in the investigation believed the ransom note was staged, as it seemed too calculated and out of place for a typical kidnapping scenario. Handwriting samples were taken from John, Patsy, and Burke Ramsey for comparison, but no conclusive match to the ransom note was found. However, some analysts mentioned some similarities between Patsy's handwriting and these peculiar forms of letters, but nothing was established as definitive. Media influence and police missteps. The case of JonBenet shook the world. How could a 6-year-old go missing, only to be found hours later in her own home, brutally murdered? The media quickly went wild trying to get every possible update, but with that came a lot of misinformation. From the get-go, the media was focused on framing the coverage in a one-sided direction, placing a great deal of suspicion upon the Ramsey family. Continuous coverage, especially from local and national TV stations, magnified suspicion around the family, often dismissing other potential leads or suspects. This media frenzy not only influenced the public's view, but perhaps also pressured law enforcement to focus their attention on the Ramseys, rather than exploring other leads or considering the possibility of an outside intruder. The local authorities, especially the Boulder Police Department, messed up the investigation pretty badly. Initially, their failure to secure the crime scene and properly collect forensic evidence allowed contamination and later confusion. Rather than investigate the case as a complex crime with many potential suspects, law enforcement became obsessed with the Ramseys, and a lot of it had to do with the pressure from the media. The fact that evidence such as trace DNA, which had been linked to an unknown male, was overlooked by the media, which meant everyone was looking at the case with tunnel vision, focusing on the Ramseys and not looking at other viable suspects. The documentary, while focusing on certain aspects of the case, didn't quite capture the extent to which media narratives drove the investigation and shaped public opinion. The Netflix documentary on the JonBenet Ramsey case failed to present several critical facts, without which the surrounding circumstances of this sad event cannot be fully understood. From critical forensic evidence to trace DNA found at the crime scene, to inconsistencies in the Ramsey family statements, this case is as confusing today as it was 25 years ago. While we believe that there was most likely an intruder who was involved, the questions surrounding JonBenet's death remain unanswered, and many aspects have yet to be fully explored or resolved. Some key clues that point to the involvement of an intruder include a palm print on the wine cellar door, 2 unusual footprints found at the crime scene that didn't match any family members, and a 3rd print on a broken window. Additionally, a high-tech hiking shoe print was found near her body, and a pubic hair on the blanket JonBenet was wrapped in did not match any of the Ramseys. These strange pieces of evidence make us believe there was somebody else involved. While none of these theories gives a conclusive answer as to who was responsible for the crime, missing out on important pieces of information made the netizens question the credibility of the series. Do you feel the documentary gave a full picture of the family dynamics and motivations? Let us know in the comments down below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for similar content. See you in the next one.